All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the channel again. Got this video here from Cash Jordan, which I'll leave in the description so you guys can check out and even subscribe. This kind of reminds me of a video I watched dealing with San Francisco. It says, "It begins. NYC thieves start raiding restaurants." New York City. Restaurants. I told y'all, it's hard for me to, if I go out to eat, I can't sit with my back to the door. Not saying I'm going to be able to stop what's going to happen, but I at least need to see so I can at least have some type of reaction to it, you know. But wow, we're gonna check this out again. Appreciate all the love and support with you guys coming over, man. We ain't gonna waste no more time. Let's jump right into it.
Outdoor diners, beware. This surveillance video shows what's starting to look like a pattern of armed robberies at outside restaurants. Police are trying to figure out whether the holdups are connected.
So a new disturbing trend in New York's ever-evolving sea of crime has emerged. And even though police have no leads since the crooks targeting these restaurants all escaped on mopeds, this is the type of crime that happens so quickly and is so easy to pull off that experts say it's only going to get worse.
The thieves are demanding watches, wallets, and cell phones.
The video we're talking about shows men moving around a dining table and scaring people.
Investigators say one of them had a gun, another had a knife. Police say they got away with $200 in cash from the register and 5 iPhones from customers.
They're using crimes of opportunity where they're just basically grabbing purses or handbags off chairs and running out.
Surveillance video shows a man toting a gun. He's demanding customer.
All that, man. Again, and you got to think about also, like, you want to go out, you want to have a good time, you want to eat and not worry about this stuff. But guess what? You got to. Don't let your guard down. A lot of people don't have sense of awareness, you know, and it's sad too, because you want to just be out just enjoying life, but you just can't do that no more. You know what I mean? Those antennas got to be up because people are just dirty, man.
Here to hand over their watches and wallets. Detectives are now looking into whether or not the same men robbed customers at Carbone in Lower Manhattan.
Is there one thing in particular that you think is leading to this?
Well, it's a lot of things. It's a lot of the laws that have been passed that have basically tied the hands of the police.
Officers are now required to record the race, age, and gender of anyone they approach.
It slows officers down from going to a scene immediately.
Overall robberies are up 5% citywide compared to the same time frame last June.
If you go out to eat in this city, your waiter might be replaced with a robber. Now, the police say they're not sure if these incidents are related, but what nobody's talking about is that all of these incidents are related to the fact that this city does not punish crime. And here, if you steal under $1,000 worth of stuff from any store in town, you'll suffer no consequences because that's a misdemeanor, which has created a huge problem.
So that's the same thing, yeah, with in San Francisco. You get to steal up to a certain amount, and like people know that. That's why you see those videos of people coming in there stealing and stuff, and you see like security just looking at them, you know.
For the last year, stores like Macy's have been getting robbed regularly, which is why everything inside is now chained to the store itself. And what this means is thieves need easier targets to steal from. And our money-hungry crooks, they're not looking at stores anymore. Oh no, now they're setting their sights upon the rest of us as we chow down on bagels in the middle of the West Village. Because our phones, wallets, and handbags make us walking dollar signs to these thieves, who might even be lurking among us as if they're just regular people. Not just at restaurants, but also at the grocery store or even on the subway, which itself is no stranger to violence and crime, and now looks more like a military occupation zone because of the high levels of police doing bag checks and the presence of the National Guard. Which brings us to the real reason why we've now got a crime wave above ground targeting restaurants just like this. There simply aren't enough police to keep us all safe at once. In fact, New York City right now has as many police as it did back in the 90s, but the population of the city has grown by over 1 million people since then, which is a recipe for perpetual crime. Because when all the crime underground started, every available resource was sent sent down there to stop it, leaving all of us up here utterly defenseless. Easy pickings for criminals who can steal everything we have in seconds.
That's crazy, man.
So here we are at Carbone, a famous restaurant in New York's West Village where thugs recently targeted its patrons who were eating outside. Now this place has a high-end reputation. It was started in 2013. Celebrities eat here. And a USDA prime porterhouse for two will set you back almost $300. And that's what makes this place an attractive destination for...
I know a lot of places, didn't have outdoor dining. And then once 2020 hit, and you know what happened then, and everybody was pretty much forced to eat outside, a lot of people just stuck with it. They did indoor and outdoor. But it's scary, man, because my whole thing is like, if you're being robbed, you don't know if that's it. You don't know if they're just trying to take your wallet, your jewelry, or if they're trying to, take you out. So I just feel like when people are doing this type of stuff, they need to be hit with the hardest punishment, man. Because it's just too many people getting away with this. It's ridiculous, man. It's ridiculous. Like crime is going viral. It's like a viral thing to do this. Like everybody's joining in. Oh yeah. They're trying to one up each other in crime.
Criminals, because they know everyone eating here can afford the food and is probably also dressed to impress.
The video we're talking about shows men moving around a dining table outside, and apparently they're demanding cash, they're demanding wallets. Detectives are now looking into whether or not the same men robbed customers at Carbone in Lower Manhattan, allegedly stealing a $100,000 watch. Police believe this could...
So this span of robberies has happened over the last couple of weeks. And before we get into the details of how these criminals operate, as well as the testimony from terrified patrons of all of these places, it's important to understand the one thing in common they all have. First, these are popular places to eat. In fact, so many people want to eat at them that not everybody can fit inside the restaurant. That's why you have these massive outdoor dining sheds like the one behind me that is pretty much a restaurant in and of itself. Look, it's got air conditioners and stuff in it, tables inside. The bagel shop down the street has people sitting outside. But the issue is, here you are all by yourself on a public sidewalk in the middle of New York City with no police anywhere in sight. And these restaurants and businesses, they don't have security guards. No, it's just you get your food and you can eat outside if you want to, and that's on you. And this is a safe neighborhood, so it's kind of alarming that incidents like this are taking place here. But once you understand why these criminals are picking these places out specifically, it'll all make sense. Especially when you realize that people eating out in New York City as a big group are utterly distracted and not really thinking about personal safety. But there's a much more frightening reason why criminals are looking to target people specifically on the streets.
Robbery is not on the menu here at Marlowe & Sons in Williamsburg, but that's exactly what some outdoor diners got. You can see the customers give up their belongings before the gunman takes off on a scooter.
So New York City has a massive moped problem right now, and the thieves, a team of two, were riding one of these mopeds, which is how they were able to escape so quickly. Now the drivers will wait in the street with the engine running just steps away from where people are sitting, and then the passenger gets off. And in the video that we're looking at here, the passenger was the one who had the weapon and who went around to each person at that table and asked for their valuables and then got back on the moped and escaped. Now observers say restaurant crime has a lot in common with the other types of moped crime we're witnessing, where thugs quickly approach unsuspecting New Yorkers as they're walking down the sidewalk, take a valuable, and then ride off into the night. But you see, that type of crime, it's a crime of opportunity because you have to be on your bike riding past somebody who looks like someone that you would want to target. But at a restaurant, there's a whole bunch of people sitting outside with their guard down. It's perfect for criminals in a city that's not willing to protect its residents. On top of that, people at a restaurant, they're sitting down, they're on their phone, they can't get up, they can't run away, and they're dressed well most of the time. And no one at any of these places is looking for trouble. And what's sickening about all this is it is the logical progression of unchecked robberies that happen on the street. Now, restaurants aren't even safe places, which is exactly what witnesses of these events are saying on Reddit. This discussion covers all the recent restaurant robberies, and one user writes that it all happened so fast, most people weren't even sure what was happening. On top of that, all of these crimes occurred during dining hours between 6:30 p.m. and 9:30 p.m. in the evening, which means this crime is different from purse snatchings that happen on sidewalks. These were premeditated attacks, specifically targeting the patrons of expensive, pricey restaurants in expensive, pricey parts of town. The criminals knew what type of customers they were going to encounter in places like this, which is sadly the very reason these places were pre-selected targets. But just as crimes in places like this look like an escalation over previous types of street-related crime, there's a new escalation that has now started happening with the whole restaurant scene, and it's not happening on the street.
The most recent incident happened here at Birds of a Feather about a week ago. This time, 2 men held up customers dining inside of the restaurant. The men stole cell phones and a watch. Sources tell Pix 11 News.
Look at that. The most recent incident did not happen at a sidewalk seating arrangement. No, it happened inside the restaurant. The thieves just walked in the front door and walked out with everyone's stuff. Which totally makes sense. If you're a criminal and you get away with minor crimes, you're just gonna graduate to bigger and better heists. And the videos we're seeing all show the criminals targeting men who have expensive watches. And if you're a thief and you can get your hands on a watch, that's something very small, very pocketable, and very expensive that you can easily resell. Because in this city, we've got as many jewelry exchanges as we have restaurants, and finding a place where you could pawn that thing off won't be a problem. But there's another element to this new pattern of crime that is extremely alarming and makes it something that it's very hard to defend against. Because let's say you're eating over here at this restaurant, or let's say you're inside a nice restaurant. How hard is it to spot someone coming into the restaurant wearing a motorcycle helmet to pick up a delivery order? That is like the most common thing. So these thieves, they can get...
Yeah, oh man. That is so true. That is so true. It's hard to point these people out, but like, it's like you just have to really be on some type of alert. Because when I go out to eat, I'm always looking around, and what I always look at is if guys are sitting at a table and they have their back to the door, and I kind of just shake my head like, man, you can tell that they aren't. I mean, it sucks to say, because they're just out just trying to enjoy themselves and have a nice time with family. But for me, just how I grew up, I just look, and in my head, I'm saying they really don't have no sense of awareness. You know, they probably think nothing could ever happen. So, all right. So now I'm looking for people with motorcycle gear coming in. Oof. And see, a lot of times I'll be with my sister-in-law, and she be having that thing on her, if you know what I mean. She be having that thing on her. So
very close to their intended victims. They can hide in plain sight, blending in with normal restaurant traffic. They're not even patrons at the restaurant. They just show up with their motorcycle gear on like every other delivery driver, and no one blinks. And this gives thieves who are riding an e-bike or a moped the opportunity to hide and bide their time until the exact moment presents itself for them to commit a crime. And even though most restaurants in town have security, how good are these cameras going to be when the thief is wearing a helmet and you can't see their face? And it's incredibly frightening to think that the next time you're having a meal anywhere in New York City, you could be being cased and spied on as you chow down. But there is something the city could do if it really wanted to take this issue seriously and really wanted to put a stop to it. But as you're about to see, the solution to all of this is so logical and so straightforward that it's never gonna happen in this city, and that's something that should not only disappoint all of us, but should frighten us. The police department. This is the Greenwich precinct, which is responsible for protecting people who were at that restaurant Carbone over in the West Village, but it's about a 15-minute walk. And the sad truth is that New York City just doesn't have enough police to keep everyone safe at once, especially with crime waves.
See, like, even like, look right there, you know, people are just out enjoying life, but, you know, they're sitting here. There's no good angle here, right? Because if she turned the chair the other way, facing the street, somebody could walk down the street, snatch her bag, you know? It just people can really suck, man.
Taking place in multiple places across the city at the exact same time, which isn't the kind of thing that matters to anybody until the watch off your wrist is taken when you're out to dinner and you still have to pay the tab because the food ain't free.
We have a staffing crisis going on in the NYPD right now. We lost nearly 3,000 police officers last year to just retirements, police officers leaving the department. Also, we're losing an average of over 200 police officers a month. So by the time we get to that end.
That is absolutely crazy. 200 officers leave the police department every single month. And not only does the police department here have monumental tasks in front of it, this attitude of defunding the police is still with us today. And that's why the numbers in the department itself are declining, and they're declining at a rate that is so fast, we aren't able to replenish the department with new recruits. And to make matters worse, we're losing experienced veteran officers. Which means not only is our police department shrinking at a time when New Yorkers need it most, with all of these simultaneous crime waves going on, the experience of the department is decreasing, which some say means its effectiveness is also going to decrease.
In precincts across this city where we would normally turn out 6 to 8 patrol cars, right now we're turning out 2 to 3 patrol cars in those communities on a given tour.
So what does that do to the safety of the community?
The response times continue to rise. That is the reality of policing right now.
So some precincts are down from 8 patrol cars to just 2. That's a 75% reduction in available patrols. How is that not a recipe for more crime in pretty much every area of town? Less police means response times are going to go through the roof, because as crime becomes more common, police are now stuck choosing which incidents to respond to first, meaning your watch getting stolen at a pricey restaurant might come in behind something much more serious. And what's incredibly frightening about this is that our criminals, they're not defunding themselves. No, they're expanding their operations in light of the lax security that happens whenever the police divert resources from one crime wave to try and deal with another. And what makes this even more frightening is the proliferation of weapons. So not only are the thieves becoming more numerous and more emboldened, they're also becoming more heavily armed week by week. And you know how they're smuggling the guns into shelters? They're using delivery bags like this one right here. Apparently the shelters have metal detectors, but they're not actually scanning to see what's coming in the food packages. Does that mean there's a direct connection between all of this crime and the asylum crisis? Well, no, not necessarily, but it does mean there's a direct connection between the apparati that are supposed to keep us safe falling apart and increased crime. And the reason this disaster is unfolding upon us is not only because the police are shorthanded, it's also because our laws force them to fight crime with one hand tied behind their backs. And the latest example of all this is the How Many Stops Act, which is now in effect in New York.
Officers are now required to record the race, age, and gender of anyone they approach.
It slows officers down from going to a scene immediately. But the other side of it is...
Okay, now critics say that this is essentially a paperwork requirement that slows down law enforcement when we need more law enforcement faster, not less law enforcement slower. But proponents say having police record this information is important to make sure that law enforcement is happening in a fair manner for everyone. Now, whether or not you think this policy is a good idea is besides the point, because in a city with a short-handed police department, you've got to pick and choose what things you have your limited resources do. And the more time police spend using apps on their phones, the less time they have to stop crime. And as we just heard, many departments are short-handed right now, and if they've only got 2 patrol cars on the street and one of those patrol cars is busy filling out apps on their phone, there won't be enough cops to keep people safe.
Former NYPD Lieutenant Darren Porcher is concerned about delayed response time and the data itself. We reached out to the NYPD for a response. A spokesperson says the department has put in place policies, training, and technology to comply with the law. Officers will be using forms on...
Now, of course, this is just one example of a law that might hamstring police in the event of an emergency. But the thing that's crazy about this is all information, all of this demographic information, it would all be available in the event of an arrest. This applies to people who the police stop in a normal interaction. For example, if the police come out of the bomb squad department over here and they want to talk to me and it's an official stop, they're going to have to put my information to the best of their ability into this new system, which will be publicly available, apparently. But then the question becomes, if I'm not arrested for anything and there's no suspicion of guilt and I haven't committed a crime, what is the ultimate value of that? And there are fears that activists will use that information to further scrutinize our short-staffed NYPD, which could lead to more investigations that lead to nowhere and more oversight that is unwarranted in a time of increasing crime.
I also worry that there's just a general mentality, a lack of appreciation
for police officers?
Well, I think the communities really support the police. It's the politicians that are enacting these laws that tie the hands of the police and put the public and the communities in harm's way.
And you don't see this.
So ultimately, there's nothing wrong with the system that increases the transparency at which a public institution like the NYPD does its job. That's a good thing. It will help keep the city safe. But the problem is the resources to do it aren't included with the plan that says it needs to get done. And right now, the police resources that we have are stretched so thin that the moment there's a crime wave in one part of the city, it pulls the resources over here. And then another crime wave pops up over here because the criminals saw an opening. Do you see what's happening? The police are playing whack-a-mole with our crime waves. That's why they're impossible to stamp out. That's why we went from having a crime wave in the subway below where I'm standing to a crime wave up here at our restaurants. And you know what? Once they get rid of this, then crime is going to go right back into the subway. That's exactly what's going to happen. Now, are the police perfect? No, they're not. Do they always do their job fairly? No, but they are the protection that the law-abiding have when we're at a restaurant between us and the criminals who want to ride up on the street on a moped with a weapon and try to take our belongings and possibly harm us. And that's very frightening. It's very frightening to think that we don't have the backs of the people who are supposed to have our backs. What kind of system is that? Of course it's going to be dysfunctional. Of course it's going to lead to crime waves. Is that what's happening? Is that why we've got crime in the city? Let me know. How would you fund the police in New York, or are they funded too heavily? Should we restrict their funding? Let me know what you think. I'll see you in the next video.
Again, man, yeah, that sounds like what's going on. I mean, how they were talking about San Francisco. They hadn't mentioned the restaurants yet, but I just, it's not shocking that this is happening. You know, it's just extremely disappointing, you know, that human beings can't, like, if people would take that energy, that time and that energy and try to do something good, man, you just think about how great the world could be. I just feel like that's why a lot of people don't even go nowhere no more. I was looking at a comment here and the guy was talking about, yeah, in Texas, those robbers would be, you know what, by the people who were eating. However, most times it's too hot in Texas to eat outside. Wow. And I seen one video, someone said, what did they say? If it was a girl saying something about, like, they asked her if you could be, I don't know if it was, if you could be invisible, where would you go? What would be the first place you go? And I think she said New York, because she ain't got to worry about all the, like, guys whistling at her and all. Hey, this was, shout out to Cash Jordan for this video, man. It was, I feel like a lot of this, I mean, this is the new wave. I told you, it's like, it's stuff goes viral. Crime has become trendy. And the thing about it is, it's easy to do. It's very easy to do. People just, they go to areas where they think people aren't going to be on their, you know, on their best, like, awareness. Like, man, this is pretty bad. Hey, again, please comment below what y'all think of all this. Do you guys, anybody out there live in New York? Have you seen this stuff happening? All right, peace out.